Welcome to my YouTube channel, Learn with Satish Kumar Jayachandran, and also I am welcoming you to this particular series, Complete Guide to React.js. So in this tutorial, we are going to see the introduction in the React.js, and before start of this tutorial, I am also going to give a brief introduction about myself, about my background as well. And if you're not interested, please feel free to skip that. And later I'm also going to explain why I have created this tutorial and what is a user driven approach is all about. So those are all the things that I'm going to explain in this tutorial. So let me give a brief introduction about myself, and my name is Satish, and as of now I'm having a 12 years of experience in software development and still it's going on. And over here, I have mentioned some few technologies, like these were some of the few things that I have worked on. And there are a lot of other things I also worked on. I didn't want to put it over here so the slide doesn't become so messy of all about. And my aim is like whatever the knowledge that I have gained, I'm a person like where I want to distribute to someone else. But there is no kind of any medium like where I can just sit and help them in learning. And hence I just started a YouTube channel, and over here I'm going to put each and every series whatever I have learned and whatever that is keen interested is all about. And I'm also going to explain you guys only 10 minutes per day. That is what my aim, because I don't want to consume more than 10 minutes of your time, and each and everyone have a should have a practical exposure as well. So that is what the main advantage of this particular tutorial as well. And the reason why I have created this tutorial is like if you take a look at some of the tutorials which is outside, each and every tutorial is cost much, and they won't give enough details if it is free, and they would ask you to go and refer in this and this site and gain the knowledge like that. And otherwise it won't be from the scratch itself. When I say scratch, what I am planning is, if someone, a layman who doesn't know what is React.js itself, and he knows something like what is computer, what is HTML, JavaScript, if he refers my website, he should be a React advanced developer. Like at the end of viewing all the videos that I have created, at the end he should be an advanced React.js developer. That's what my aim is all about, and that is what I am just planning to do it, and that's why I created this tutorial as well. And for a reference, I would suggest you don't have to take a look at any tutorial itself, or you don't have to take a look at any source. If you just refer my tutorial alone is enough, more than enough, that I'll be telling you all the concepts, what are all the things that is present in the React.js from the scratch till the end. Either it goes to 500 videos or 400 videos, whatever it is, I'm going to explain it from the scratch, and it is totally free of cost. You don't have to pay anything, and I'm not going to tell you that for the advanced topic like this and this, go and refer like this and all. I won't be doing it, because most of the YouTubers right now, those who create any content in the YouTube, they are doing it. I don't want to mention the name, but I don't also want to put down their efforts as well. And hence, I have created this tutorials, and there is a typo over there in the slide. What I mean to mention is, just spend 10 minutes a day. That's it, more than enough. And each and every day you have to learn one concept with practical knowledge. That's what my planning is all about. So enough of giving the brief introduction about myself and my career and what are all about. It is a bit boring. I know that. Even I got bored. And right now we'll get into the topic. What is React.js? React.js is a JavaScript library which is used for UI design. So whenever someone is asking in an interview, just give this alone. And by giving this statement is alone is not enough. You have to explain what it is. So what is JavaScript library? So we know JavaScript, but what is JavaScript library? Say for example, if you want to bring an image in front of your web page, at that time you will be writing some few lines of code in JavaScript, and this would be around 10 lines or 20 lines, or sometimes it may be 100 lines, the way the effect should look like. And this is quite complex, and each and every time you have to write this 100 lines of code. Say for example, this 100 lines of code would be common, and you have written some code or library. That is what library is all about. If you written some common code somewhere else and it is stored in a folder, and this folder would be referred from the active programming wherever I am doing, and just within two to three lines of code I can able to achieve rendering the image with effects. So this particular folder or the contents whichever I am using, right, that is called as a library. So ReactJS is one such JavaScript library which is used for UI design alone. So this is not used for any backend language, something like that. This is only as a UI design we are using this ReactJS library, and it is a user-driven approach. What you mean by user-driven approach? User-driven approach is that, like, where you are writing a programming language, right? At that time when you are coding, you have to keep user in your mind. So that is called as a user-driven approach. And the ReactJS is a component-based architecture. So for example, take a Java programming. So if you are coding anything in the Java programming, each and every class that you are going to write, right, is going to be a Java class. Like that, over here, each and everything that we are going to code would be a components, and that is called component-based architecture. And ReactJS was developed by Facebook, and it is still maintained by them, and it is open source. So it is said that even a Facebook was developed by using the components, that is nothing but the ReactJS. And if you just look into your home page of the Facebook, even that particular web page itself is developed by 10,000 components. So imagine like how many number of components would be there in the picture. And there are also other JavaScript libraries available in open source. They are nothing but the EXTJS, Angular, or one such of the JavaScript library. ReactJS is the most used one, and if you just get into any job website, you can see that ReactJS is the one like which is mostly asked by many companies. That is because of its user-driven approach. And one more thing I just want to keep you posted before winding up this is, I want to explain you by showing some website, and I also want to tell you how the web page of the ReactJS is been looking like that. You can also open a Facebook, and for here, what I'll do is I'll open one of the sample ReactJS website, and I'm just going to show you how it looks like. So I am opening this website react.rocks, which is being developed by the ReactJS. This is one such example. So over here you see the website, right? So in this website, each and every component, this one is a component actually. This one is a component, this one is a component, like that. So when you are getting into this website, it is bringing all this component that is shown over here. And inside this also somewhere else, this particular components can also be used. The reusability is there. So once you click on the component, this would be opened, and which is another component. So ReactJS is something like user-driven architecture, which is built on components like this. So this is one thing I just want to keep you posted. And thanks for watching. Please feel free to subscribe. In the upcoming tutorials, we will get into practical knowledge and gain some practical knowledge on it. Over here, I just want to keep you posted, with some introductions about this series and introduction about ReactJS and about myself. That is what I want to achieve over here. And I'll make sure each and every day you just spend only 10 minutes. Maybe at the time of installing and other things and all, it would consume more time. But apart from that, you just have to spend only 10 minutes a day. You will learn each concepts, even including practical knowledge about it. That's it. Thanks, and have a nice day.
Hello everyone, welcome to the second tutorial in this series of a complete guide to ReactJS. In this tutorial, we are going to see how to make your React app up and running in your local. When I say local, it means in your system or laptop or desktop, whatever it is. So, in order to make your application up and running in your local, the React application up and running in local, there are two things that we need to do as a prerequisite. They are, you have to download Node.js. So you can download Node.js at this path, and based on which system it belongs to, either Mac, Windows, you have to download this, whether it is 32-bit or 64-bit. You have to download it accordingly, install it just like a normal software, and then you have to download Visio Code. That is nothing but Visual Studio Code, and this is the URL, and make sure that the name is Visual Studio Code and it is not Microsoft Visual Studio. And download this file as well based on it is 32-bit or 64-bit. And once you download this, install this as well. Once you install this, your application will be up and running like this. And in this, you have to click on Open Folder, and you have to choose which folder you want. I'm just choosing React App, and select folder. And in this folder, once you select this folder, your React app will be running. Your local would be pointed to the React app. And that's all. The prerequisite is done, and we are going to make our application up and running. And how we are going to make it? So we are going to make our application up and running just by a single command. Yes, you heard it right. It is single command. If you execute this command, npx create react app space my app. My app is the name of the React application that we are going to create. So make sure that this my app is all or in small case. If it is in uppercase, it would give you an exception. So once you click on this, once you enter this command, click on enter. So once you enter, what happens is it will install series of files. You can see there are numerous number of files has been loaded, and make sure you have a good internet connections, because this would take some time. If you have a good internet connections, it would install it very soon, and you will get a message that found 0 vulnerability. That means your React app is being installed perfectly, and your npm will also install the dependencies. Yes, the React app has been installed, and right now you have to execute a command npm start. So make sure that you go to the app that you have created. It is already been there in my app, so I'm not going to do that once again. Or else cd and go to the app name. I've created already. I'm not going to enter this. And once you go over there, npm start. That's it. Your application would be up and running right now. The React application would be up and running in your local, and you can also see that in the browser. Very simple, isn't it? Yeah. So your base is ready right now, and your application is up and running. And from next future tutorial, what we are going to see is we are going to see some certain concepts, and we are going to write our own code, design our applications and learn each and every concepts inside React app. So once I click on npm start, right now your npm would act as a development server, and yeah, it automatically goes. Once you click the npm start, it will automatically go and install. It will go to your browser, and you will go to the port number wherever your React app is being deployed. So all this information is present inside that a single command npx create React app. So wait for it. It is just loading the pages. What are all the things? And if it is taking more time, you have to go here and see the console if there is any error is thrown. As of now, I don't see any error. That means, yeah, your React application is compiled successfully over here. Your React application is there, and see that this is dynamically loaded in your machine, and React app is doing that. So that's all in this tutorial, and thanks for watching. In the next tutorial, we will learn the concept inside the React app, and we'll do some tweaks and learn the concepts over there. That's all from my end. Have a nice day ahead. Hello everyone. Welcome to the third tutorial in this complete series to ReactJS video playlist. In this tutorial, we are going to see what are the other ways to create the React app, which we have created using npx create React app command in the last tutorial. So you have seen in the last tutorial, like we have just used the command npx create React app, and we hit the browser localhost 3000, and you found the application up and running. What happens at the back end? What is there in that particular command that you executed in your terminal that I've created a React app and your browser was up and running? So all these informations are available in Webpack and Babel way of creations. So I have classified the React app creation into two. One is through npx create React app command, another way is through Webpack and Babel. The reason is each and every way of creating a React app has its own importance, which we are going to see in our next slide. Using npx command, we have created a React app, but say for example, it is a case where you want some var to be present at some place and it should be written in React code, and say for example, you need to write your business logic separate in such a way like manipulation with respect to calculations, operations, or certain round of web services that needs to be called. What happens is that npx command, whichever executed, would provide you all the UI components? No. The reason is while using the npx command, you have not generated any file which tells that my application is going to be a var and it is going to be at one place where it will be called by my servers. So over there, when we use the npx command, you remember we have entered another command npm start where your node engine is acts as a server. You would have also seen the command it's going to act as a dev server, right? So all this, what happened is your node acts as a middle layer, acts as a server in which your React app is running and it is seen in the UI. So on a non-enterprise application, you can use this particular command, and you can go ahead and take a look at my other series of upcoming tutorials and work on the same. Whereas when you're going for the different way, that is through Webpack way, for creating a var and then you want to reuse it by the business logic or by the enterprise application or by the services, you have to go through the Webpack way of creation. So these are the differences. So using Webpack, these are all the advantages. You can create your own bundle and keep your var separate, and your business logic can be in some Jazz, or if you are writing a Java code, or if you Python or whatever it is, and you can call this var and it would give you a proper UI like in your front end. So these are all the advantages of the Webpack. So when you are creating a Webpack application, React applications, so what are all the main things that should be present is Webpack config.js. It's like a main class in Java. This tells what are all the JavaScripts that it should enter as the first point of contact, and then what are all the HTML files it needs to be loaded and what to be loaded. And this what to be loaded would be a JSX file. JSX is the format in which React files would be mentioned, and this would how JSX loads is like an index, like an HTML in which it embeds. It would be embedded as a JSX and it would get displayed. So these are all the contents and these are all the things that would be covered in the upcoming tutorial. I'm explaining you this since I want you guys, whoever referring this tutorial, wants to know when to use npx command to create the React app applications and when to use Webpack version of creating a React app applications. And hence the reason I have started this tutorial before getting into my next topic. So in this slide you can take a look. So when you click on the browser, you have seen the beautiful React that is surrounded in the last tutorial, right? It was just buffering. So how it buffered is, it was just a static HTML page. In the static HTML page, the React DOM, which was present in our main.js, like it's a JSX, like which was rendering that dynamic manipulation of some circle over there. So in our next tutorial, I'll explain you more in detail like how this comes in front end with the Hello World program. And as of now, just make sure that React DOM is the main component that is present inside the HTML, which brings you some contents in front end, and it would give you a beautiful look of a React applications. That's all from my end in this tutorial. If you have any questions or comments, you can just put it over here in this video and I'll take a look, and if there is any questions, I'll answer the same as much as I can. Thanks and have a nice day. We'll see you in next tutorial. Hello everyone. Welcome to the fourth tutorial in this series of Complete Guide to ReactJS. In this tutorial, I'm going to explain how to install a React app using Webpack. In the second tutorial, I have explained how to create a React app using npx command, and in the third tutorial, I have explained you like what are all the classifications that can be done or to create a React applications. And in this tutorial, I'm going to explain that like the second classification, which is nothing but creating a React using Webpack. So at first, what I have done is I have created a new folder called React using a Webpack, and then I opened it through open folder over here, and it had opened it for me. And Second thing what I have to do is I have to go to the terminal window, and in the terminal window I have to click on new terminal so that it loads it to me. So these are the first step. The second step what we are going to do is we are going to create a new folder in which all the Webpack components will be bundled. So let me create a new folder by using this particular command in the command prompt, like which is nothing but mkdir app, and then I have to go to that particular app. So once you got into this app, so the very first point for each and every JavaScript application is your package.json file. So how to run this package.json file, where I will get it, how to create it. It is not we going to create the package.json. We have a simple command that is nothing but npm init to install package to create a package.json, which is nothing but the entry point of any JavaScript applications, which tells more about your applications. So once you give npm init and click on enter, it will ask you for a few questions.
It would be saved if you give a command -save. And in my, I haven't saved it, I suppose, and that is why it is not getting shown. So you have to click on, you have to enter the command npm install prop-types-save. Or if you want to load as when package.json loads, you have to include that over here, like React DOM, like you have to include a JS library prop-types. So let's go back to the app.jsx where our code is present. So I'm using prop types, and over here I have two properties. One is header and one is footer. So I'm going to tell React that the prop type, whatever that I'm going to pass, right, should be a string and a number. So how am I going to do that? So over here I'm going to mention prop types. Header is nothing but prop type dot string, and footer should be prop type dot string. Should be prop types, not prop type. And this app dot prop type, which is prop, oops, sorry for the type, prop type. So why I'm mentioning it over here as a prop type? That is because I have imported prop type over here. So let's see what is in the. So once you saved it, it compiles and it's showing the same. I am printing this message from header, and I am printing this message from footer. Say for example, if this is a number and I'm mentioning it's this particular number is required, and I'm going to save, see what happens. Over here it gives you an exception saying that, see, the particular property type whichever you have passed, it should be a number, whereas you are passing a string, and it throws an exception. So this is what validating prop types is all about. So what is the use of it? Like why we are using this validating prop types? See, over here you're passing this default props information over here. Say for example, I can also include property informations like over here in the main class wherever I am calling. So I can give header equals to like this. I can put a string over here and I can say enter this value. This value would be displayed if I save it. But say for example, I know I have only one file over here, and in this file I'm passing this header, which is in app.jsx I have mentioned, and it is going to overwrite whatever that is mentioned in the main.js, and it is going to display these values. But say for example, I have around 30,000 components in Facebook. There are around 30,000 components are there. And is it possible for me to identify that whether I need to pass a string or a number like that? So it is a challengeable task in enterprise level that to validate whether this will be a string or a number like that. And hence this concept of validating props came into a picture. So by mentioning this should be a number and it is required, you can easily see there would be an exception that thrown saying that it should be a number and you're not passing a number. And this is what the use of it. So that's all in the validating props, and you might come to a conclusion, or the question would be arised: is the prop types can be checked? Should be a string and number, and is there any other thing that is required or not? Is available or not? Those kind of questions would rise, right? Yes, there are many types are available, and I have listed over here. Some are like you can check whether a variable should be an array, boolean, function, number, object, string, etc. So all these informations are being, I took this information from ReactJS official website. Like these are all the prop types that you can able to constrain or check using prop types library. So that's all in this tutorial. So in the next tutorial, I'll come up with some other topics. Thanks and have a nice day.
Hello everyone. Welcome to the 11th tutorial in this complete guide to React.js. In this tutorial, I'm going to explain what are the restrictions that we have in JSX. So for this tutorial, I'm going to take the code base which I have used on third tutorial, that is using the npx command how to create a React app. That particular code base, I'm going to use it over here as a code base in explaining the JSX restriction tutorial. So when I just clicked on the app.js, in the app.js it was like this by default, and our our applications was looking like this, like the React app was looking like this. And in this, what we'll do is by default, what all the contents that was present in the div tag, we'll remove the entire contents, and I'll create another div tag, and I'll also put an HTML element inside the div and explain you like what is the restriction is all about. So I'm going to type SX restriction. So once I click on this, let's see in the React in the browser what it looks like. So it gives me a command like this. It's giving me a sentence like saying that JSX restrictions are explained. So right now
I'm planning to include another div tag. Let's see what happens. So I have included another div tag and I'm clicking on save. It is throwing an exception at the compile time saying there is a duplicate div that is getting passed. And in the compile time itself, it gives you an expression that only one parent element. That means over here in React, it is expecting you to return only one div tag. If in case, if you want to add some other contents inside it, what you can do is you can put a child element, but whereas it is expecting you to return only one parent element of div tag. So all these contents are not HTML. When I say HTML tag and other things, I'm just returning a JavaScript. Over here, ReactJS expects that to be in an HTML format, but in turn, it is converting into a React.create element, which I have explained in the third tutorial. So over here, the first main restriction what we learned is React is asking you to return only one div tag. Make sure about it. So if I am written some child element, then that is okay for the React app, and it is giving you this contents. And what is the next restrictions? Over here inside the div tag, you can mention class equal to app. And what this would do is, like in general, in div tag, if you mention class equal to app, if there is any you know if there is any content is being present as a CSS, that would get loaded. But over here you should not mention that in a name called class. You should mention it under class name. So mention it as a class name. By default, Visual Studio Code also shows you that. And when you click on save, what happens is it would apply all the CSS element which is present in app.css, and you don't have to mention .css over here. And if you take a look at it, by default this import element will also be present. And if you comment this out, let's see what happens. If you comment this out, the CSS whichever that is loaded, right, it won't get loaded right now, because make sure that you import this app.css as well, and you are giving dot slash because it is present in the same folder where this file is present. So that's all today. Like, I just want to explain these two restrictions which I have uncovered in the previous tutorial, and hence I have included a tutorial under a topic called JSX restrictions and explained you all these contents. So in the next tutorial, I'll come up with different topics. Thanks, and have a nice day ahead. Hello everyone, welcome to the 12th tutorial in this series of complete guide to React.js. In this tutorial, I'm going to explain you topics with respect to granularity of functional components, and we are also going to visit what is children properties, which I was uncovered in the previous topic. So in order to explain about the granularity, I'm going to create a new folder inside source like this. I'm just going to give a name as a login, and inside this login folder I'm going to create another file named login.js. So like any other functional components, at first I want to return some HTML elements in this login.js. So what I would do is I can write a variable name, say I'm going to give it as a login, and which equal to, I can give it as function. I can mention like this and return it. And this is a way of representing the function class to the login is present in the ES5 JavaScript. But it is recommended whenever you are using ReactJS, you have to use next generation JavaScript, which is nothing but ES6. So in ES6, instead of function, what you have to do is you have to write an anonymous function and you have to give an arrow mark, and inside this you have to put some curly braces. So those were all the persons that who are not aware of ES6 and next generation JavaScript. I'm planning to create a new set of tutorials in future to know like what is ES6 JavaScript and next generation JavaScripts, so they'll be aware of like what we'll be doing in the React.js. But that is something like in nearby future. So as of now in ES6 JavaScript, just think that like we used to return a function on a variable like this. You can also do it like this. So as of now, think like that. So what you can do is I'm going to return a component, HTML component. I'm saying it as an HTML, but it is not an HTML. It is a React element. But in this tutorial, we will take up things to be easy as considered as HTML element. I'll go ahead and tell that as a HTML element. So I'm going to return a paragraph. Say, for example, please login. Okay. So I have written some function that returns an HTML element, which is nothing but React. So in order to be a React, what you need to do, you need to import React as mentioned in the previous tutorial. Import React from React, and by doing this alone is not enough. You also have to export the class so that it is seen in the other JS. It is accessible to the other JSX file. So export default login. I'm just going to give the name login as well. So I'm going to use this in app.js in order to use it. So what I need to do? At first, I need to import it. Import the login, whichever I have created, from dot slash, which is a relative path. Login is a folder name, and inside that, I have created a JavaScript named login. And it should be login.js, but it is understandable. It is not mandatory to choose login.js over here. You can just write login. It would refer that login.js, which is with this present over here. And over here, one important thing is this particular element, which is shown over here, right? Login. L should be in capital over here, and it can be a different name. You can type any other name. It is just a reference over here. Consider as an object. It is being referred over here. So you can mention different other name as well, but make sure the first letter is capital, and then only React would understand that. So in order to show it over here, what I need to do is I need to include this login element over here. Okay, so I'm closing it, saving it. Let's see what happens. It is returning the content whichever that we have typed in the login. Please login like that, right? So in real time, what happens is, say for example, I'm creating any React applications or any profile or any React app. So all this contents, right? Each and every login contents as different components. Means, say for example, in this functional app, I am returning the login component over here, and it is getting displayed. Say for example, if I need to use this login somewhere else in some other application, in some other main components, I can also do it. how I can do it is by including this login alone. And how to verify that? I can just put login multiple times, and you can see that many number of times that login would be displayed. So this is one of the great braces so that gets displayed. So I'm saving this, and once clicking on class login, what I'm going to do is instead of this message which is hi how are you, I'm going to set it. Once I click the button, I'm going to set this particular message to I am doing good. So over here, I'm going to do a set state. And how to do that? This dot set state, which we have already learned in the previous tutorial. And in this, I'm going to put message colon I am doing good. So will this be working? Let's see. So I'm going to, yeah, it has been refreshed, and by the default this message is coming over here. And my thinking is once I am clicking this, it should modify to I am doing good. Let's click and see what happens. So on clicking it, it is giving me an error message saying that cannot read property set state of undefined. So it is saying that the set state method is undefined over here. That means in this that set state is being not defined. So we will see what is it, why it is showing like that. So I'm going to comment out this code, and I'm going to comment out this code, and I'm just going to put an alert message and or console log, whichever you want. And in this I'm going to give this. Let's see what happens. Usually it is used to give an alert name called an object is present. So I'm clicking on this. I'm not doing set state right now. Instead it is going to give an alert message. So it is saying that this itself is undefined. So in JavaScript, that this word is too keen because it is having very importance, and it is having accessible to lot of other properties like this particular class and the hierarchies and other things which we are going to see in the other tutorials. So that this word is a problematic one, and that's why in recent times hook concepts also came in React. So in order to make sure that this particular content is available, what we need to do is we need to bind this. And how am I going to do that is in this click handler, I'm going to write dot bind, and in this I'm going to pass this variable. So what I am telling over here is once I am clicking a button, at that point of time I am saying that to my function, see, we have a property name called this, use it, and this would be used over here. And once it is used, it is saying that this dot, when this particular object this is getting binded, and when I am setting that this dot set state, at that time it would take the object value and it would get displayed. So let's see what happens right now after clicking the button. I'm clicking class login. um, that alert message was still there, and that's why it is giving me a pop-up, and it is saying that I am doing good. That means this particular message has been set. In previously, it was not set because the binding was not happening properly. So this is what I want to explain in this particular tutorial. Like going forward, if we are setting any particular contents in the functions, make sure that you need to bind that this, which is nothing but event binding. This is called as an event binding. And there are also many other ways where you can do event binding, which we will see in the next tutorial. Hello everyone, welcome to the 19th tutorial in the series of Complete Guide to React.js. In this tutorial, we are going to see what are the other ways to bind an event handler. In the last tutorial, we have seen how to bind an event handler using this keyword, and we have also mentioned that this keyword over here, and we have binded an event, but using this that would cause a lot of performance issue. The reason is you're binding this keyword with this keyword over here, so each and every time when I'm clicking a button, binding an event would cause a performance issue. So in order to avoid it, I'll tell you the other three. I have another three approaches where you can bind an event. There are many number of ways where you can bind an event, where you can just search on the internet, and which is these concepts are related to JavaScript and they are not belong to React.js. And in this, I'm going to explain you how to bind an event with a better approach. So at first, I'm going to comment the code whichever I have written yesterday. So for that, what I'm going to do is I have to open up braces, slash, and asterisk, and I'm just going to put the close braces at the end of the code, like where I am going to comment with star, slash, and the close braces. So I have commented the first approach, and in the second approach, what I am going to do is I'm going to copy the code whichever I have written for my previous tutorial, and I'm going to remove the code for this dot bind this. And this approach is we would bind an event based on a arrow functions. So how to do that? You have to put a bracket equal to greater than open braces and close braces, and in this you have to mention this dot click handler. And in fact, you don't need this open braces and close braces because it is a single line. If it is a multiple line, then what you have to mention is you have to mention another open braces and close braces, and you have to take that things into a control. So right now I'm going to click on save, and let's see in my browser like what happens. So it refreshes. I'll refresh one more time, and it just gives me the set message by the default set message over here. I'm going to click on class login. So over here it should be with the bracket, so I forget that, so you also take care of it. And right now click on save, and then click on class login. The alert messages whichever we have not removed in the previous tutorial, it is showing it over here, and you can see that it sets the message. So this is one approach, and the second approach is you can bind this event in the constructor itself. So how to do that? I'm just copying the code whichever I have written for the first tutorial. After setting the message or setting the state message, I'm going to write this dot click handler equal to this dot click handler dot bind, and in that I'm passing this. So you can ask me a question. You said that using this bind over here is causing a performance issue, and you're using it over here in the constructor. Yes, using it as the constructor, what happens is this class would load only once, and the constructor is also will be loaded at the once, and hence placing this code over here is safe, but placing the code on the on click is would cause some problem. And what is that problem is, like as I said at the start of the tutorial, there will be some lot of performance issues,
and you're binding a this keyword in the this, and JavaScript would get confused, like if I call this, which content I have to show it over here. And I'm going to remove this particular content, and I'm going to mention it as click handler. This dot click handler, and let's see what happens. Oh yeah, I'm refreshing it. Once I refreshed, it shows hi, how are you, an object, and it's saying I'm doing good. And make a note, in the third approach I have not put the bracket, open bracket and close bracket over here, but despite that it worked fine. So you have to use that open bracket and the close bracket only when we are using a bracket like this, equal to and greater than symbol. This is some ES6 syntax, and this is the way of recommended way of using the code. So this is nothing in lies with ReactJS. So I don't want you guys to get confused whenever I am using this, and that's why I'm explaining all this stuff in this particular tutorial. So this is the third approach that we have seen. I'm going to comment this as well, and I'm going to tell you the fourth approach in which we are going to use this. So the fourth approach is nothing but what I'll be doing is, this is the most commonly way of using the code in recent times in calling a click handler. I mean in calling an event handler. So in that way, in this button, I'm going to mention it as this dot click handler, and I am going to comment the code whichever I have written in the previous approach. I'm also going to remove this. Instead of removing it, what I'll do is I'll place it over here itself. Like in this click handler, I'll mention it as a variable or constant, like this, equals to, and equals to a method, and that method is nothing but this. So this is another way of ES6 syntax way of representing a function. So I'm going to mention that I'm going to call this dot click handler. So this dot click handler is nothing but a variable. Over here it is anonymous, like it is not a variable or a constant. And most of the times we would mention as a constant because it is not going to change it. So over here I'm going to assign some variable or constant which is equal to a function, and it would declare this particular function. By calling this click handler over here, this would also bind an event. So I have refreshed it. Clicking on class login, it just gives the alert messages, and it also changes the state. So these are all the three approaches we have seen in this tutorial, and mostly I'll be using all the event handlers in this particular format in going forward in this particular tutorial. And yeah, and there are a lot of performance issues would be present in the first approach, whichever that I have mentioned. Even in the second approach, it is not advisable because you are calling a arrow function inside an arrow function, which would generate an error. And third approach and fourth approach is a better approach in using the project, and I'll be using the fourth one going forward in all the tutorials, so that it is very easily binded rather than using the first two approaches that we have seen in this tutorial and in the previous tutorial. So that's all from today. In the next tutorial, I'll come up with some other new topics. Thanks, and have a nice day ahead. Hello everyone, welcome to the 20th tutorial in the series of Complete Guide to React.js. In this tutorial, we will see how to pass a function as props. In the previous tutorials, we have seen we can pass a value or a variable inside props, and the child element would use that particular properties, utilize that properties, and would perform some actions in child components, right? So right now we are going to take a look how to pass a method or a function which is present in the parent component to the child component itself. And this is one of the most important tutorial in this topic, because what happens over here is whenever some certain contents is present in the components, at that time if you want to you reuse it in your child component, at that time you would be using this particular method or this particular way of passing the components, functions or methods from parent component to the child component. So enough of the theory. So right now we will get into the coding. So over here I'm going to create a new folder and I'm going to name it as tutorial 20. In this tutorial 20, I'm going to create a new class component and I'm just going to name it as login.js. Inside this login.js, I'm going to create a class component and the code snippet for that is RCC. And over here in the div button, what I'm going to do is I'm going to call the child components. So I'm going to name the child component as child login like that. And I'm also going to self close that. And in that, I am going to pass a props. How I'll be doing is I'll be keeping some name. So over here, I'll give a name as event handler and which is equal to some method that is present in this particular login.js. I'll name it as click handler. And this is props. So over here, this particular click handler is nothing but a function which we are going to declare it over here. I'm going to mention it as click handler. And I'm also going to have a constructor. Con is the code snippet for it. And in the click handler, I'm going to pass a message saying alert. I have been called from parent component. I have been called from parent component login. So this is a method, right? So this method or function that is present in a login.js, which is nothing but a parent component, and we are going to pass this click handler itself in the event in the child components props. So this is the first time we are seeing it, right? Earlier we used to pass a variables or a value and then we use it in the child components. Right now in this, what we are doing is we are passing a method itself. Okay. So in order to use the child login, I'm going to another file named as child login.js. Before getting and writing the code in the child login.js, I also have to import it over here. So make sure even if it is child, you need to import it. So this part, because each and every time when I am rendering the student, let us take a look at the student JSON over here. In this, there is some attribute called as an ID. I can use that. I can use stud.id and let's see like what happens. So over here I am passing stud as a props and over here stud.id as a key. So stud.id, make sure that it is in lines with the same value over here. So no caps, no small keys, everything like you have to take care of it each and it's case sensitive. So I'm saving this and I'm just taking a look. It's compiling me at the back end and let us take a look at it what happens? So once it renders it, I'm just going to refresh. Yeah, once it renders it, you can see that there is no error over here. So one more thing that would come into your mind is I have passed key attribute over here. Is it possible for me to render that key attribute over here? Yes, you can render it, but one important thing that will happen that I want to keep you posted is if you just put key value over here, it is not going to show up anything in the console. So I'm just mentioning this key, whichever I'm that getting it rendered, and I'm passing it over here. Let's see what happens. So that key, whichever I have mentioned it over here, right? This is not being present over here, and it is also giving me a console.log error saying that key is not a prop. And if you try to retrieve the key component, it would give undefined. So this is one of the most important thing, like the most advantageous thing that we can see in the React. Say for example, if 10 years before in JavaScript development, if you take a look at it, any error in the console, it won't give you a proper error itself. Right now, with the help of the React, it gives you a proper error and saying that you should not use it. Thanks to ReactJS for that. And that is why like ReactJS is the most competitive front-end language that have been vastly used. So I have to remove key over here. So whatever the key that you are passing, you can pass it, but it is no use actually. So you can't render anything, you can't do anything. So it is up to React. You have to inform React, hey, you want a key, right? I'll provide the key. This is the key. And you just render me a props. So that is the only one thing. And the second thing I just want to keep you posted is this stud.id should be unique. Over here 123 and 321, this id is unique. That means it is not having the same number. If I am having 123 over here, then I can't use stud.id as a key. Rather than I have to use name as a key. So you over here in these two objects, you can see the name is different. So I can also use that. You can also see the skill is different. I can also use that. But in case if the name and the skill, or if the ID over here in the first object and the second object is different, then you need to consider some other parameter like skill or name as the key attribute. You have to set it. Okay. So in some cases in JSON, which I am just going to retrieve it from external web services or any other web services, there might be a scenario where you won't find any unique attribute would be present. So in that case, what I'll be doing? So I need to set the key attribute in order to avoid those console.log errors, right? Whatever the console errors that I need to avoid it. But if in case there is no unique values present in such a way I have explained, like say for example, even the ID is getting repeated in the JSON. So at that time, what I need to do? For that, we will take a visit in next tutorial. Thanks and have a nice day ahead. The series of complete guide to React.js. So in the last tutorial, at the end of the tutorial, like we have said that there might be a case where you would find some specific component won't be unique. Yes, like say for example, in this object we have name, ID, skill, and compare that with the second object, everything is unique, right? Say for example, if there was a case where you can't able to find the unique key itself, at that time what to do? So that was the question raised in the last tutorial, right? So in order to come across overcome that particular scenario, So what I'm going to do is React provides some component called index. Make a note that I am not passing, this particular index value is not present anywhere else over here. This is inbuilt component of the map. So over here I am passing an index, and over here stud.id I have passed it as a key. Instead of stud.key id, I am going to pass it as an index. And let me take a look at browser, like what happens. On the browser, I still see that no error has been generated. So whenever you feel like there is some contents that is present in the JSON where you won't find any unique key present, then you can use the index. But there are also some other challenges we have in using the index. We'll see what it is. At first, what I'll do is I'll comment this, and I'll also add a array of string instead JSON. So I'm going to mention array string equal to a square bracket. Inside that, I'm just going to have two arrays, and one is holding the name Satish and my last name. Okay. So in this student list, I'm instead of student JSON, I'm just going to use array of string dot map, and this array string will be the value. Okay, and in that I am going to pass index. I'm going to remove this component. Instead of that component, I'm going to put h1 tag and slash h1, and I'm going to print the string that I have passed, array string. Okay, and it should be in the braces. Let me save it and take a look at it. Let's refresh. It just gives me first name and last name. Over here, though I am passing it as an index, I have not used it, and hence it is throwing me an exceptions. So once I am going to use key over here, key equal to index, you will see that this issue would get resolved. Yeah, there is no issue right now. So what is this index? What is this inbuilt component? There should be some values that would be stored, right? What is that? So let me take a look by by executing the value of index over here inside the braces. So let's see what it gives. You can see 0, 1. So that means for each and every object, my ReactJS, when it is rendered through in map, it takes index as a value starting from 0, and it is assigning itself to a key, and it is incrementing itself by each and every value of an object. So if there is 3 strings are there in this array string, then the next string like 2, it would be incremented by 1, the third object would be incremented by 1, and 2 would be present. So you can use index at the point like when you don't have any unique key present. But there is also a lot of scenarios you can come across. Say for example, if I want to insert an object in array string and I want to insert it from the first rather than at the last, then there would be a problem. So when you are trying to add an array string and add an element to the array string, like array string dot push, and you want to bring it in front At that time, though it would take the value like 0 comma some other name, say for example if I am including David in front of this array, it would come over the value 0 comma David, but whatever the contents, the actual value, the h1 dot value is there, right? That will not be changed. The reference would cause some problems over here, and hence you should not use indexed at all point of a time. So when you should use indexes, you should use index only when there is no unique key present in the array itself. So over here, Satish is one name and Jayachandran is one name. So it is unique. You can use the name parameter as a key itself. But say for example, if the second parameter is also Satish, then that would cause a problem, right? So at that time, I need to use index. I can use index. It is not mandatory, but I can use index. I can pass a index as a parameter. I can use it. And second thing, when I need to use indexes, there are 3 line items are there. This is one such scenarios where you can use index. Like apart from this, the values that is present in the array string, right? It should be static and constant. It should not vary. You should not add any array string after this particular code. After the line number 16, you should not add any contents to the array string. Then you can use index. Then the third particular conditions is you should not sort this array string. You should not sort it out like array.sort, ascending or descending. You should not do it. Only if these 3 scenarios satisfies, then only you can use index. Otherwise, you should not use index. I'll repeat again. At first, the contents of the string, if it is not holding any unique itself, that means if it is, say for example, over here string is Satish is there. If it is Jayachandran like that, it is there. Then you should not use index. Rather than that, you should use the array string itself as a key. Okay, this is one scenario. And the second scenario is you should not add any contents to the array further. And third scenario is you should not sort it out. Array string dot sort, array string dot sort descending or ascending. Those kind of thing you should not do in your project further. Then only you can use index over here. Otherwise, it would create a problem. So this is very simple thing. Hence, I am not explaining you guys in code, but use of index can be done, but it can be done only if it is satisfying all the 3 scenarios whichever I have explained. So this particular thing I want to bring it over here in this particular tutorial because this is very important and it is very minute thing, and hence I have created a separate tutorial for this. So that's it from this tutorial, and I'll come. Hello everyone, welcome to the 29th tutorial in the series of Complete Guide to ReactJS. In this tutorial we will see how to use CSS in ReactJS. Using a CSS in React is more or less equal to the one that you use in the JavaScript, but there are some ways where you can able to execute or import CSS in ReactJS, and they are as follows. One is using a CSS Stylesheet itself. So we have already done it. Yeah, like not in this tutorial. Like when you execute the command npx create react app, you would have seen corresponding to app.js folder, there is a file called app.css. We have imported that, right? So that app.css is nothing but a CSS style sheet file that we have imported it and we have been using in our code. So this is one way where you can include CSS in your React, and there are other ways like inline styling, and you can also include CSS modules. And inline styling is where when you are writing the code itself, the JSX stack, inside that you can mention some styling, and you can also have a CSS modules. And the most commonly used in a project in a real time it would be the CSS JS library. So in the upcoming tutorial, we are going to see what is CSS style sheet, inline style, and CSS modules. Whereas the CSS JS library, I am not going to do it right now because this is a very big topic. And maybe in future I can include a topic for this, which would be a series of tutorial. Rather than in this tutorial, I'm just going to use CSS style sheet and inline style sheet to make you understand like how to use CSS in the ReactJS. So to someone who is not aware of what is CSS and other things, so let me take a look. Let me get into a famous, social networking site, Facebook, and I'll also explain you like how CSS works. So I'm just getting into the Facebook. I got into one of my famous cricketer, MS Dhoni, and over here, this is his VIP profile. So this is his own profile, and you can see there is a button, right? This particular button is getting displayed over here, right? Whereas in a common profile, like you can't able to find that. Since this is this particular tick mark is to identify whether the particular profile is a fake profile or a original profile of the VIP profile or something like that. So over here you can't able to find it. Over here you have find some blue hyphen tick mark, right? So this is nothing but a CSS. So how to verify that? Right click on it and inspect. You will see there would be some class name that would be included in this name itself. In this name MS Dhoni, you would see that class name would be imported. So that is the one thing which is showing some tick marks over here. Maybe in the upcoming tutorial we will take this as an example and we will also work on the same. In this tutorial I will show you like this is nothing but a CSS over here. This is just for an example. And I'm just going to click on an arrow over here, and in the MS Dhoni profile, like over here there is a tick mark. When I'm just clicking on it, it highlights over here there is a class name which is nothing but a CSS, and this is responsible for populating the arrow mark over there. So say for example if I'm deleting it and I'm just clicking on enter, you'll see that it is getting disappeared. So I'm not hacking his profile. If I'm just refresh it, it would automatically reload. I'm saying that. So this is one way of, this is some browser related component. Like this is my browser component. So I'm explaining how this is getting displayed. The CSS profile, CSS is getting displayed with an icon over there. So such a kind of thing, like we will take a look at in our next tutorial. As of now, I just want you guys keep you posted what is CSS and how it is used in a web page. So CSS is nothing but a style sheet. It's a style, the way it represents. If I go over here, it is showing some hand arrow over there, right? And like if I keep it over here, it is just an arrow. So these are all nothing but CSS. Comes from CSS. So this is one of the most important topic in upcoming tutorials. We will take a look at like how to implement in our program itself. Thanks and have a nice day ahead. Hello everyone, welcome to the 30th tutorial in this series of complete guide to ReactJS. In this tutorial we are going to see like how to implement the CSS, how to bring the styles in components using CSS style sheets. So I'm just going to create a new folder. I'm going to name it as tutorial 30. And inside this folder, I'm going to create a new file and going to name it as style.js. And I am also going to create another file naming it as style.css. So in style.js, I'm going to mention an RSF, which is nothing but a code snippet to generate the functional components, which I have previously explained in the tutorials. So typing RSF, it could generate you the functional components. And inside this, I'm going to mention an h1 tag. And inside the h1 tag, I'm going to name it as, I'm going to mention welcome Satish, my name. And save it. And I'm going to import the CSS file. Import the CSS file that we have created, dot slash, and it should be in single quotes, dot slash style dot css. Make sure that you have to give dot css. It is not a JavaScript. Only if it is a JavaScript file extensions, then it is not mandatory for you to mention the extensions over here. Since it is a CSS, I have to mention it over here. And in style.css, I'll create some class name, and I'm going to mention it as VIP color. And inside this, I'm going to mention the color attributes, mark it as red. In style.js, over here in the h1 tag, I'm planning to bring that class whichever I have mentioned. So I am going to mention it as VIP color. Going to save it, and let me take a look at the browser. Before taking a look at the browser, I'm going to comment whatever the contents that is present already, and I'm going to import with style from dot slash tutorial 30 slash style, and over here instead of the student list, I'm going to mention it as style. Save it. I'm going to take a look at the browser. I'm going to refresh it. So it is highlighting welcome Satish. So which is the attributes that I have mentioned in the style.css file. So this is the way of representing the style sheets. I mean importing the styles and the components using the style sheets. So over here, I am planning to pass a variable, and I'm going to call that variable as is VIP. Pass the variable as true. So basically what I'm trying to do is I'm trying to do whatever the things that we have seen in the previous tutorial. In Facebook, like if you just go and search for a profile, and that profile is being highlighted with a blue icon, right, showing that it is not a fake profile, it is a original profile, like that. I'm planning to bring it over here. I'm just going to explain you guys how this has been implemented in the Facebook component. Like that, I'm going to explain it over here. So over here style, I'm passing the props value as is VIP, and I'm just passing it as true. And in style.js, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a variable, and I'm going to name it as VIP variable. And this VIP variable, I'm going to examine it from the props using a conditional expression. Props dot is VIP question mark. If E is a VIP, then take the class name as VIP color. If E is not, then do nothing. So this is a code for conditional expressions. So I'm doing that over here. Props dot is VIP. Over here, Am I missing something? Yes. Question mark, colon. There should be no semicolon over here. Going to save it. And there should be another error that I have removed. So I'm going to save it. So what is basically going to do is I'm going to pass a style components, right? This is VIP. This component I'm going to examine it over here. If E is a VIP component, then it would be highlighted in red. If not, then you would be highlighted in a normal component. So let me take a look at the browser. It is red in color because I am passing the VIP as VIP as true. Going to pass it as a false and going to take a look at it. It is normal. SVIP is false, and in style.js I'm okay. Over here I have not examined it. Instead of VIP, instead of the class name, I have to put the variable name whichever we have created. Open braces, close braces, and I'm just going to delete the close one, save it. Let me take a look at it. So it is highlighted normal. So this is the logic that Facebook is using. So over there, if he is a VIP, the same component would be derived, which shows the page results. And if he is a VIP, the additional components, whichever that is being passed as true, right, that would be highlighted over here. So in real time, over here we are hard coding the value. In real time, it would be from any services or databases that the Facebook is getting used. So from there, it would show you the result, and it would be getting displayed. So that's all. We have used Cascade Stylesheet to display the styles over here. So let me also add one more item over here. That is, say for example, if I want to display a multiple styles in a element, in an HTML element. When I say HTML element, the JSX attribute. What I'm going to do? So say for example, I'm going to create another class, and in this class, I'm going to give font hyphen size as 100 pixel, and I want to make that name welcome Satish as a big huge one. So for that, what I'm going to do is there is a component which we can use in JavaScript, which is nothing but backticks. So next to left to the number 1 in your laptop or your desktop, there would be an a quote like that. It would be present. Yeah, that is nothing but the backticks, and that you have to type it over here, backticks, and inside that, what you need to do is you have to pass a VIP variable with contents like this. So inside that, you are passing a VIP variable where it should be a dollar symbol, and inside that, what you need to do is you need to mention the class name whichever it is present. So over here we have created a class name called as a font excel, right? I'm going to copy the same and space, put it over here. So there is a close tag over here as well. So this backticks is present, right? It should be in another braces. So I am going to, because all these are getting examined, right? So it should be in a braces, and I'm going to put it over here. Control save, and going to take a look at it. See, there are two class components that is getting executed. One is with the style of red, and other with the size. So with the help of the cascades, we have imported the style components we have imported the styles into style components. So that's what is in this tutorial. In the next tutorial, I explain you guys what all the other ways where we can import styles into React components. So that's all today. Have a nice day ahead. Hello everyone, welcome to the 31st tutorial in this series of Complete Guide to ReactJS. In this tutorial, we are going to see how to use inline styling in ReactJS. So for that, at first what I'm going to do is, I'm going to create a new folder and I'm just going to call it as tutorial 31. Inside this folder, I'm going to create a new file and I'm going to name the file as inline style.js. Inside this inline style.js, I'm going to write RSF, a code snippet to generate the functional components. The functional component is generated. I'm going to mention inline style, a string which should show in a browser, and I want to check whether it is rendered properly or not. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the inline style whichever I have exported, and over here I'm going to mention as inline style. Saving it. Let me take a look at the browser. Yes, the particular div tag contains whatever that is present in the div tag, whichever I have written, has been getting displayed over here. Perfect. So right now we'll take a look at how inline styling can be used. So inline style at first should have a constant, and that constant should be outside the functions, and it should be an array if it is more than one styling it is going to take care of. So over here I mentioned an array. I have assigned a variable, I have assigned a constant heading with an array, and I'm going to mention the color equal to red. And make sure that this key value pair, right, the left hand side should be an attribute and the right hand side should be a string. And in the next line, I'm also going to write font size, and size should be in camel case. So whatever that is having a two letter words which is combined, the font weight, W should be in capital, and font size, S should be in capital. Also keep that in mind, and it should be a string again, 72px. I'm just going to mention. I'm going to save it, and over here in the div tag, we have an attribute called style. We need to use that equal to, and open braces and close braces. I'm going to include the heading over here. So this is the way we used to mention inline styling in React.js. So I'm saving it, and here you can take a look. It is holding both the color as well as the font size. You can also write some other attribute as well, and it would get displayed. So this is inline styling in React.js. So in next tutorial, we'll take a look at module. Hello everyone. Welcome to the 32nd tutorial in the series of Complete Guide to React.js. In this tutorial, we are going to see how to use CSS in React.js with the help of modules. At first, what I'm going to do is I'm going to create a new folder, and I'm going to name the folder as tutorial 32. Inside this folder, I'm going to create two new files. One file I'm going to name it as style.css, and the second file I'm going to give the name as style.module.css. So the second file whichever I have created is the module way of creating the CSS file, and make sure that it should appended with a suffix named as .module.css. In this, I'm going to create a new class, going to name it as module, and I'm going to color it as red. Save it. And in style.css, whichever I have created, I am also going to give the same name as module, and I'm going to name it as, I'm going to give the color it as red or green. to differentiate from the one which I have created earlier. Save it. I'm going to app.jss. I'm going to import the CS whichever that I have created, CSS library class whichever I have created. So the normal way of importing it is like dot slash, and I have to give tutorial 32 slash style dot CSS. And in the modules library, like if I want to import the modules CSS, what I need to do is import. I have to use a component name for it. So this is something different. Make a note of it. I'm going to give a component name as style, and I'm going to give tutorial 32 slash style dot module dot CSS. I'm saving it. So make sure that you have to use style component. Say for example, if I want to, display those contents, I'll create an h1 tag, and inside that h1 tag, I will give my name, and I'm going to give the class name for which we have created in style.css, and it should be usual like this module. And whereas in the second h1 tag, what I'm going to do is I'm going to import the style which is present in the modules.css. So how to do that is I'm going to mention my last name over here, and the class name whichever should be represented in different manner, and how it is. So I have to mention a class name equals to, and the component name whichever I have given, which is nothing but style dot module. So module is the name that I have given inside the class name I have given inside the style.module.css over here. So let me take a look at the browser and let's see like what happens. So once I go to localhost 3000, so it would give my first name with green in color and the last name with red in color, which is expected. So it is working fine. So what is the use of creating a module way of CSS? Say for example, if I am copying this name, this h1 tag, which is of style.css, and I'm pasting into a inline.js, which we have created in the previous tutorial, and I'm pasting it over here. I'm saving it. Let me take a look at the browser, and another component has been introduced over here, right? So in children's component, in child components also, these style which is common, right? It is getting accessed. In real time, and applications would be in such a way we would get confused like where to use any CSS. There might be a situation like in child alone, like you have to use a specific color or component, and in parent you have to use specific component. Say for example over here, the module is the same class name that is present in the style.css as well as style.module.css. So if I use by this way in child components, it is importing the way it should represent. And sometimes in your applications, when you have to use children's alone and with different color, at that time it would cause a problem. And hence we need to use module way of it. Say for example, if I'm using the same content over here, which needs to be used only in parent, suppose by mistake I'm just pasting it over here and I'm clicking on save. In your JavaScript, in your application, it would throw you an exception saying that this is something like it should be shown only in the parent component. if you want to use in children's component, you should import it at first, like over here. So in order to segregate different colors that needs to be used in different components, child components or some other components, module is very helpful. And hence the module way of representing a style sheet is mostly recommended when you are writing any CSS code in your React applications. That's it from today's tutorial. I'll come up with some other topic in next tutorial. Thanks and have a nice day. Hello everyone. Welcome to the 33rd tutorial in the series of Complete Guide to React.js. So in this tutorial, we are going to see what is forms in React.js and with the help of what you can able to control the form elements. So over here I have opened a website and it's a banking website, and you can able to see a single dialog like this is present, which is in white space. You can able to find the user ID is present and the password is present. There's nothing but a text area and a small checkbox saying that remember my user ID and a button, right? So this piece of component which is highlighted in white is one such examples of forms, and practically like where we can use forms in our applications. If that is your thought and if that is the question that comes into your mind, like this is one such example. So this means you'll be entering some username and some password, and once you click on sign on, what happens is it would submit a data to your server. So this is one useful activity, or this is why the form is mostly being used. So now let's see like how we are using forms in React and what are all the names that we can give for it. So at first, so forms in React is categorized, or the contents whichever that is present in the forms is called as a controllable components. So what do you mean by controllable components? Controllable components is nothing but, say for example, like we have seen the website Citibank, right? So over there you have found text, a button, and a checkbox like that, right? So these are all controllable components in a JavaScript. So in general, if you take a look in an HTML page or whatever the JSP page, like you can see that once you click on select, or once you click on radio button, some actions would be performed, and this is controlled by the JavaScript itself. But whereas in React, we need to make intensively these elements to be controlled by the React itself rather than it is controlled by the JavaScript. So the main motto of this tutorial is like we are going to see like how the controllable elements, how the elements inside the form is being controlled and will be controlled by React. And theoretically explaining, like if you want like what is the solution for it, like we can use state and set state, and with the help of the state and set state you can actively render the components. Imagine I have said in the tutorial when I was explaining in state and set state, like when you set in any element or you have set any state object, it actively renders the component. So you don't have to do any page refresh or something like that. It would dynamically reload the particular component where you are setting a state itself. quite interesting, isn't it? So we will see that in the next tutorial practically, like how we are going to implement it, and the steps which is on screen is the thing that we are going to follow. First we will be initializing a state, then later we will be having a set state method, and this set state method should be mapped in a place where this action is getting triggered. So there are also a certain scenario like where forms will trigger a submit and it would go to the database or go to your server. So in order to avoid it, like what we need to do, we also going to see those things in our upcoming tutorial. I'll see you in next tutorial. Thank you right now. Hello everyone, welcome to the 34th tutorial in this series of complete guide to ReactJS. So in this tutorial we are going to see forms in ReactJS, and we are going to see like how practically forms works in ReactJS. So just to recollect, in the last tutorial we have seen like theoretically like how to set state and how to make a controllable elements is controlled by ReactJS. So in this we will try to implement the same. So I am going to my app.js. So I have deleted whatever the code that I have written previously. In this I'm going to create a new folder, going to name it as tutorial 34, and as usual, and I'm going to create a new file. Let me keep the name as forms.js. You can keep whatever the name you want, and then you have to mention RCC. What this will do is this will create a class component. So inside this I'm going to create a constructor, and right now let me just put some controllable elements in JavaScript, which is nothing but input type as text, type equal to text, and I'm going to close it, self close, save it, and I'm planning to import it over here. Forms self close, and before that, in order to make it work, I have to import the same. Import forms from dot slash tutorial 34 slash forms. Okay, and I'm going to click on save. Let me take a look at the browser and see what is it. So there is a input type is there, which is nothing but text. So just getting appeared in the browser. So I'm going to type anything, and this is controlled by JavaScript itself. The element whichever that is present over here, right? It is controlled by its own, but that is not the case. We need to change it in such a way that ReactJS controls whatever the contents inside this. If I type this, only ReactJS has to be has to control this. That's what we have seen in the previous tutorial, theoretical tutorial, and how to make that is at first. For that, what I'm going to do, I'm going to get inside form.js where I have created this input type text. In this, I'm going to initialize a state as mentioned in the previous tutorial. So going to mention it as equal to, and inside this, I'm going to give a username colon, and at initially let it be empty, and later I will set it. So in this input type text, I have to mention the value. How I'll do it in the previous series of tutorial. If you have seen that, I would have also explained it. We need to use this dot state dot username. So whatever the values that is present over here, it would be over here. I'm going to the browser, refresh it, going to enter the values, nothing happens, right? So at this place, we actually made ReactJS control this particular input type text box. Whereas in previous way, right, before writing the state, it was controlled on its own. So whatever I type, it is being controlled on its own. Right now, we made to be controlled by ReactJS. So in order to type, whatever the values it is typed in this text box need to be stored, what we need to do, we need to write set state. So how to do that? At first, what I'm going to do is on change. So this is a default event for the text box on change or on like there is another event called on click is also there, but it is not required. Over here, on change is required. So whatever you change it, it needs to be stored. And over here, I'm going to mention it as handle, say for example, handle text change. I'll give the name like this.